thank you to the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 51, for allowing that to happen and allowing this partnership to take place. But this partnership wouldn't take place without funding. You need some money because everybody, this is a nice looking room, right? Right? So in 2021, Delegate Jazz Lewis, who I'm asked to come to the stage. Everybody give a round of applause. Delegate Lewis said, we need to do something in my district. He said, Walter, while I like, these job centers you're building, I have people that can't afford to drive to National Harbor. I have people that can't afford to go to Laurel. What can we do to create a career center and quality jobs for my high school students and their parents? And I said, hey, we got a partner, we can figure it out. So Delegate Lewis sponsored a bond bill that allowed us to get $250,000. And that we partnered with Brian. I said, hey, can we partner? Can you give us a space? And he said, hey, I got to make some renovations. I said, well, hey, I got somebody that can take care of that for us. So this is what happened, and Brian's going to talk about it and what the renovations took place, and then adding a career center. And what we know is the first job center, affiliated American job center inside of a union hall in the state of Maryland, what we believe one of the first in the country. So when we talk about, something to work, clapping for. So as we talk about that, we're gonna bring Delegate Lewis. Right before we bring Delegate Lewis up, I do want to take a moment, though. Outside of having Delegate Lewis here, I do want to acknowledge our other elected officials. Do we have any municipal elected officials in the room? Can you please stand? All right. Can you give a round of applause, please? We have 27 municipalities in this county. We are working with every municipality to put an American Job Center, Job and Resource Lab in every single of the municipalities. Through the Prince George's County Workforce Development Board, we are paying for computers and high-capacity printers if the municipality has a location, to ensure that those residents have a location in their municipality to have those resources. Along with our municipal leaders, do we have any county school board education members here today? I know a couple of RSVP. Can you stand? No, not yet. All right. Any county council members or representatives from the county council? All right. There you go. And I know we also have our state's attorney here today, Aisha Braveboy. Outside of Delegate Jazz Lewis, do we have any other delegates here today? I see one right here. All right, Delegate Karen Toles, thank you. Give her a round of applause. And I also know we have some state senators here today. Can we stand? Any state senators stand? Senator Alonzo Washington. All right. And before we're also going to have a special guest later in our county executive, Governor Moore, and also representatives from our federal delegation. But before we do that, can all of the members of the Board of Directors of Employed Prince George's and the Prince George's County Workforce Board stand to acknowledge y'all? These are my bosses, so let's clap y'all. All right? Troy. Oh, yes, go ahead, stand. Go ahead, stand. Yeah, please stand. Let's give them a round of applause. I like my job, right? All right? CEO House as well, right? CEO House as well. So, again, without these people, this doesn't happen. And without our friend and colleague, Delegate Jazz Lewis, this doesn't happen. He's a friend of workforce development from day one. So I want to welcome Jazz Lewis to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. I would just like to start off by saying thank you to Employed Prince George's, its leadership, and Walter Simmons, the board of directors, and all the amazing staff that helped us set up this event today, and for all that you do. I worked with you all, particularly the EPG staff, a lot during the pandemic, connecting barbers and salonists and folks who are unemployed to try to find resources. And when I found out that there's multiple ways we can get money in Annapolis. There's a bond bill. We actually got money for this, what's called the miscellaneous budget. And that's usually where those of us in leadership stash away for our priorities and for some major institutions that are beneficial to the state. and there was an institution that didn't need all their money. So I text Walter, and I was like, you know, we could really use some more workforce help in the center part of this county. What could you do with 250 grand? And he said, I could do a lot. So I told my colleagues, yeah, that 250 grand is now accounted for, and we're going to put it in the budget and make it so. And we stayed working together, and I really appreciate the partnership he's doing with the Allied Painters Union, because I started my career in organized labor, and I thank them for all that they do here for working people in this country and in our county. You know, I'm thrilled to be here, not just because this is a building that's been renovated with state money, but really because of what's it going to mean for workers who don't have to drive as far. We don't have the best public transit getting down the National Harbor yet. That's something else we want to work on. Everyone can't get up to Laurel. Everyone's not necessarily planning to go to college. But, you know, those who come from families like mine, like my father, who is a member of IBEW, or my cousins who are United Steelworkers and painters and things of that nature, it allows us to put food on the table and take care of ourselves and help them support someone like me who did go to college with the support of my family. So I thank them for that. I'm very much hopeful that something we can do with this space, and hopefully it's not too forward to say because I'm also looking at our school superintendent, is that we can bring some of our young folks here. Because I think it's powerful to see what can happen when you see people excited. You know, so when you see our workers, our journeymen, our apprentices working, and those who may be a freshman in high school or sophomore in high school can see them coming in with their union shirt, proud and working hard. They can then see themselves there and maybe see an alternative that works for them. I hope that we can work on that. But thank you guys so much for having me. I think this is just a start. And whenever EPG calls, I'm going to answer the call. Thank you so much. Jazz Lewis.
And speaking of the next generation of workers, we're going to bring to the stage CEO of the Prince George's County Public Schools and School Superintendent, Millard House.
Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. You know, this is an important, very, very important opportunity for so many students in Prince George's County. What I want to first say is thank you to the leadership of Walter Simmons, and also employ Prince George's for really having us together for this critical work in connecting our local workforce to opportunities, preparing our students to ensure that they're being linked and employed for the future. Now, PGCPS as a whole, in reference to career tech, education programs are looked to as a model for both here and across the region and across the nation, quite frankly, to ensure that they have the opportunity to pursue or step into high-paying, in-demand careers. A little-known fact that a lot of people are not probably don't know, and I don't know that I've shared it publicly, but as a student, as a 16, 17-year-old, I served as an electrician apprentice. I am also a licensed barber in the state of Oklahoma. So if there's anyone that needs your eyebrows done, your edges touched up, I got you. Absolutely. But absolutely, I spent my first year of my career after college working as a licensed barber. So these are things that are in demand. Now, many of the students, of course, are able to pursue and earn and learn. And I think that's a key word, a key phrase, to earn and learn, opportunities that allow them to begin an apprenticeship in high school and complete the licensure requirements after graduation with no college debt. And that is so key as we think of, I'm a father of an 18-year-old, and that's one of the things that we talked about as she is at the University of Texas in her freshman year. We're going to the school that wants you the most, that wants to pay for you. And I think that's something that we have to impart on our youngsters. Now, at our CTE School to Work apprenticeship programs, which has created a pipeline of students who join the PGCPS Building Services team after graduation, is award-winning and the first of its kind in the state of Maryland. Now, in our construction program, we're currently have more than 160 students enrolled across 3 different schools and 6 programs, including carpentry, construction design, management, electricians, HVAC, masonry, and plumbing. We also recently invested more than $1.1 million in upgrading our lab spaces and equipment for these particular programs as well. Now, in the trades program, students can earn their construction core level 1 and level 2 certifications, along with OSHA 10 certification as well. This year alone, 94% of our students attained these credentials. Now, in construction design and management, students can earn their AutoCAD and Rivet credentials. Each program also offers the opportunity for students to be dual enrolled to earn college credits or partners at Prince George's Community College as well. We will also need construction professionals. So these jobs are jobs that we want to make sure that we have students prepared for. Another key project that I want to share before I conclude is our Construction Students Lead, which is an annual student-built house, which we're really, really excited about. I can't remember, I think it was a house that was built that was worth somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. I'm getting a finger up that it was actually worth more than that. A very expensive home. So each trade, actually $600,000 if I'm not mistaken. Now each trade completes the work on the house of the project. So we've got crews of students that are working on this home and have the opportunity to not only have the being there experience, but the experience of actually concluding a major project that allows them to have this. Now, the blueprint goal is for 45% of our students to graduate with an industry-recognized credential or completing their high school level registry apprenticeship. So, as you can see, we're doing as much as we can to ensure that we have as many students prepared for the kind of opportunities that we know that will be out there. And we're looking forward to continuing to work with Walter and Prince George's, of course, employ Prince George's County to make certain that we do our part in this community. So thank you very much, and we look forward to working with each of you to make Prince George's a better place. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna bring the man of the hour to the stage. Please welcome another one of the Prince George's County Workforce Development Board members and the power behind why we're here today, Brian Corden, who's the business manager of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 51. That's a mouthful right there, so please give him a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. First off, I wanted to welcome everybody here to the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 51, home of the employed Prince George's County Building and Trades Career Center. So thank you. Before I go into a couple of my comments, I just want to have a short story regarding Walter. When I first met him, I'd say it was about 8 years ago. It was one of my first workforce board meetings. At the time, he wasn't quite CEO of Employed Prince George's County. But I remember sitting there, like I said, it was one of my first meetings. I'm sitting there signing in the sign-in sheet, not really paying much attention, and really trying to figure out why I'm even there, right? As probably most new board members are the first couple meetings. I'm there writing my name down. A large voice comes from the room. Now, that room back at the time over on McCormick Drive is like 20 by 20, 20 foot by 20 foot. Now I think they use it for a training space, if I remember correctly. And I look back, and Walter's standing there. It was almost like a sonic boom came out of his mouth, right? I got to admit, still today my ears ring because of this event. But the one thing, that I, through the years of working with Walter and employed Prince George's County, is the one thing by that day that I got from him is, one, he's extremely passionate when he's speaking about workforce development and serving the community. And the second thing is, when Walter speaks, he needs a big room. So from that day on, IUPAT and Employee Prince George's County has worked very closely together on a lot of different endeavors. We've done various different programming from HCCT, the Construction Works program. We did a Women in Construction program, summer youth programs, and this is really building out our partnership together. Really understanding, the role of workforce within our movement and vice versa. The workforce system understanding what the role of a union organization is also. And then it was about 3 years ago, actually probably 4, it's 2019. I remember calling Walter about something and just saying, hey man, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we were kind of just kicking some things around. And then that brings us here today to the grand opening of the Employee Prince George's County Building Trades Career Center. Today, I think it's a very proud moment for myself, Walter, and our staffs also, because a lot of work has gone into a lot of planning, a lot of different things. But the one thing that is great about this, today and moving forward, is that for once, you got labor, apprenticeship, and workforce together. For so many years, we all didn't know what roles we played, and we weren't willing to bridge those gaps or lean into each other. And for once, we have. And honestly, some of those people are in that room that kind of helped make that happen. I saw Chris McLaren over there. He was one that told me I should become a board member 8 years ago. Another one over there, I see Brian Cavey, a mentor of mine back when I was a director of apprenticeship. But that's how the idea came, and here we are. Another very important thing about today is that, this Building Trades Career Center isn't just for the IUPAT. It is 100% for all building trades organizations in the state of Maryland. And it's very important, because that's the thing. We want to make sure that the residents of Prince George's County have access in one spot, one location, to find out what the next steps are to get into these careers and into apprenticeship and these great opportunities that we do provide. And again, for so long, and that's something else that me and Walter have always spoken about, is we used to argue about who is the best kept secret, us as labor, like a union apprenticeship, or is it the workforce system? Because so many people aren't aware of how to utilize the workforce system. And again, things like this is starting to change that landscape to ensure that we can all work together and change the lives of people that really need the opportunities. So, again, it's such an important day for that. And I know myself and I know my staff is really excited to kind of keep this thing going and the next steps. So I know just some highlights of some things that will be coming down the road. With anybody that's interested in the building trades unions and want access to those, the goal was to get them here in these doors, educate them, provide them the information needed to what that process looks like. We're looking at the whole information sessions, run MC3 pre-apprenticeship programs, trade-specific pre-apprenticeship programs, anything possible that we can do to bridge the gap and remove as many barriers as possible to put the residents of Prince George's County into these great occupations. And the other thing that this will do is it's going to create a long-standing pipeline for future employers and for jobs. There's a lot of great projects that are be coming out through the infrastructure money coming out. There's also a big announcement about the project labor agreements on the second phase of Prince George's County Public Schools. A lot of great opportunity right there to put Prince George's County residents to work. And we want to be part of that, and we want to be a part of it to ensure that the residents of our community are working in their communities. But with that, I'll just end on one comment that I think is very stating for today's events. And it's a quote from Abe Lincoln. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So thank you very much.
So as we talk about, what are we here for today? One of the big things is community. We say we operate our workforce system in Prince George's County as the American Job Center Community Network. We have partners here today from Maryland Department of Labor and the United States Department of Labor. When they started WIOA implementation, they started saying, we're not going to go one stop. We're going to say American Job Center. And I said, well, we don't have enough funding. We don't have enough resources to do this ourselves. Our workforce board, our board of directors said, so what can we do? We said, well, we need to rely on our partners and not just what the law says you're supposed to do. The laws don't make partnerships, right? So we changed our workforce system to be a free membership network and created the first public workforce system in America operating as a membership network. I think I saw Ben earlier. I don't know what the number is now of how many partners we have, Jamie, but I know it's over 177 signed MOU partners in our system. And a lot of you all represent that today. From a partnership standpoint, the largest partnership, when I mean signed MOU partners in America, right? That's why throughout the pandemic, our job fairs, our hiring events are consistently have 200 people, 300 people. We had a hiring event during the pandemic, had 800 people show up, right? Definitely a super spreader event, right? But we're trying to put people back to work. So I looked at the health department. We was like, we need to do some vaccines while we out here as well. You're going to get a job, COVID, and a vaccine all at the same time, right? So, but you don't do that without great partners. As we look around the room today, I do want to highlight, because when we bring our next panelists up here after our last speaker this morning, I want to highlight Frankie May Kitchen in the back. I don't see Chef Frankie, but FM McKay in the back is providing food. Why is that important? They're important because they're an apprenticeship partner for us, working with the National Restaurant Association. Lakita Green, for when we talk about what the apprenticeship's going to be, we have our apprenticeship innovation program. I've been hounding Chris McLaren for years trying to figure out what this apprenticeship is. What does it mean? So we brought out, there's Chef Frankie right there. When we brought out, right? When we said, all right, how do we get our workforce board doing what United States Department of Labor, what Maryland Labor said? So we started figuring it out. And I want to say last year, Lakita Green's our program manager, we funded 41 Prince George's County residents to participate in apprenticeships last year. And we funded 27 residents to partner in pre-apprenticeships. And their goal this year is to double that, Lakita and LaClaudia, to 100 apprentices, right? So, you know, and when we say unity, that's every sense. So not only are we partnering with Brian and the union, the food provided you today is an apprenticeship program. I also see Laura and Dawn here from TransEd and the Prince George Community College. We've done healthcare apprenticeships, IT apprenticeships. So this is a partner effort. We have CCI here today, and I'll close with this. Why are they important? Healthcare, right? If we're not healthy, we can't go to work, right? But what you see here today is what we call, David Iannucci is here somewhere, and Jim Chandler, our Deputy Assistant County Administrative Officer. They talk about placemaking and economic development. And be clear, workforce development is economic development. Economic development focuses on the prosperity and sustainability of a region through the focus on businesses. Workforce development is focusing on the prosperity and sustainability of a region by focusing on the people. So you can't have economic development without workforce development. And so they talk about placemaking, right? And so we said, okay, y'all gonna do placemaking, you're gonna create these areas. We're gonna do place-based workforce development. We started with our Youth Career Center and our Bridge Center in Suitland. We're gonna put a center where we need the effort is in Suitland, where the need is in the community. So we put that center there, a Youth Career Center focusing on young people. Then we got National Harbor, thousands of jobs in healthcare, in hospitality, retail, accommodation, Tanger Outlet. So we went to Tanger, we said, we're gonna put a job center, we're gonna focus on retail and accommodation in National Harbor. We opened a job center at Tanger Outlets. Now in the construction trades and having so many building trades unions here, headquartered in Prince George's County, this is the next step in place-based workforce development. We're gonna put the Building Trades Career Center inside of a building trades union. That's what unity is about. Why is that important? You can clap on that, I'll take that, all right? Why is that important? And as we bring State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy to the stage, the big thing you see online and in your news is crime, a lot of youth crime, right? We talk about that. And one thing that you'll see me, I'm very opinionated. You know, I got a lot of opinions, and I let people know it. And y'all know I say it, and I'm not apologizing for it, right? Because I'm willing, if I got an opinion, I'm also going to give you a solution, right? And I'm going to bring it. And so State's Attorney, Braveboy and I have known each other for years in various offices. I just keep following her around. She keep going, I go right behind her, right? The best way to fight crime is economic opportunity, right? And so if you can't have a crime plan without an economic opportunity plan. We got to stop criminalizing poverty. If we can get people jobs and economic opportunity, we can decrease crime. And that's why she's here today. She has a business council. We're partner workforce development. We have Mike Williams here today, who's the director of the Returning Citizen Affairs Division, another first, folks in that, because we are jointly partnering to prevent people from being sentenced and committing crimes by helping them get jobs and employment, but also when they come home, getting them a quality job with benefits and wages. We have people right now, we met with the State Department of Corrections that are in Jessup, that are getting training, and they are getting connected. We're saying right now, when you get home, we're going to try to connect you. If it's the Painters and Allied Trades or BAC Local 1, the Bricklayers Union, we are creating that pipeline, and our state's attorney is a key partner. So without further ado, I want to bring to stage our partner in helping to decrease crime, State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is just a beautiful day, and I'm so happy to be amongst friends today. My friends in labor, my friends in the business community, my friends in elective life and in government service. This is truly a coming together of every part of our community to ensure that we are providing real opportunities for people. And as Walter mentioned, the number one way, honestly, and I can tell you this because we know every zip code where we see crime and disproportionate levels of crime, every single zip code are zip codes where there is a lack of opportunity. And so this type of career center really is extremely important to really bridge that gap and to level the playing field. And I am so grateful to be a part of this. I can tell you that we have a Back on Track program where we provide opportunities for first-time nonviolent felony offenders to really get a second chance. We also were the first state's attorney's office in the state of Maryland to focus on bringing back our juvenile lifers into our community and giving them real opportunities. And we also have partnered with the first state's attorney's office to partner with the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services to provide what I call an emerging adult program where people who are serving time in prison, so we've held them accountable for their actions, but over 95% of people who go to jail are coming home. They're coming home. And so how they come back, the opportunities they're given, that really will determine how safe we are. And so we have that partnership with them, and that's why we have developed our business council, because we wanted to connect them with real jobs, real opportunities that we know that the unions as well as our business community can provide. So we're really grateful again for this center today. And I did want to provide you with a citation from our office. And it reads, "Be it hereby known to all that the Office of the State's Attorney for Prince George's County, Maryland, offers sincerest congratulations to the Building Trades Council Career Center in recognition of the grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony for your new center located in Lanham, Maryland. Career centers provide training, professional development, and direct access to employment opportunities for new professionals entering the workforce and for those re-entering the job market. This special occasion will mark the official inauguration of the Building Trades Career Center and showcase opportunities to develop the next generation of building trades professionals. Now, therefore, I am pleased to confer upon you this state's attorney's citation. Congratulations.
Not on social media, it didn't happen. gonna do some multitasking here. We got food in the back from Frankie Mae Kitchen. She's one of those people, if you don't know who she is, you can Google her. She's a celebrity chef, a chef for some famous people around here, including the real MVP, Miss Durant, and one of our apprenticeship partners, right? So while we're bringing our first panel to the stage, if everybody on this left side of the room, Heidi and Jim, if you put your hand up, those two tables, and then everybody behind there, if you want to grab some food, and then we'll move to the middle of the room and then the right side of the room. So if you can be quiet, because we're going to bring a panel up. Reason why we're doing a panel, y'all can go ahead, get something to eat. Reason why we have panels today is because we need to talk about economic opportunity, right? And we're going to build a building trades career center, but if we don't have jobs and projects, what's the point? You're not going to have an employee. So, and our federal partners, our local partners have really been working on this. So we're going to have our first panel of funding, infrastructure funding and opportunities so that they can talk about what's been set in place and what we're going to try to capitalize on in Prince George's County. So the moderator of our panel is going to be John Doherty from the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, and I'm going to let them do their intros because everybody's really successful. But John, could you come up? Also, we have Jim Chandler, who is the Deputy Assistant County Administrative Officer for the Economic Development Cluster of Prince George's County's Office of the County Executive. We also have Crystal Knight Lee, who is the Chief of Staff of the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, WSSC. We got steps over here. Don't jump up here. We have Chris Castro from the Department of Energy, who's also here, the United States Department of Energy. Paige Shelvin from the United States Department of Transportation. I actually saw her at a conference in New Orleans, and I said, I need you to come do this in Prince George's. And then Jennifer Friedman from the Region 2 Office of ETA at the United States Department of Labor. Please come to the stage. Y'all might need to cut your mics on. Just hold it. There you go.
Test. Good morning, everybody. Of course, he called me up before I could get any food. Also, if we could get somebody to lower this podium, that would be great. But no, I just want to keep the excitement going in the room. I know myself, in conversation with Walter, I work for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, but we're based here in Maryland too, so I have a lot of conversations with Walter and Brian and trying to figure out how we can create a model of workforce development that matches the goals of this administration's, not only its climate goals, but also its Justice 40 goals, with the historic amount of investment that's going into transportation, that's going into energy jobs, that's just across the board going to create a lot of work that we don't necessarily have a workforce for. Construction is one of the tightest labor markets there is because we're competing against other jobs that, for apprentice coming into the field, those wages at that level match a lot of the other wages for a lot easier jobs. So kids coming out into the construction space aren't necessarily looking 3 years down the line when they're going to be making a journeyman level wage at, in some areas, $40, $50 an hour. That's going to create that impact. So we really talk a lot and work with a lot of the people on the panel here to figure out what that model for workforce development looks like. And what we come up with is it really looks like collaboration, right? So Walter plays a big role in Prince George's County, as does Brian, in how we create that model of collaboration. But everybody in this room also has a role in that collaboration and making sure that we are turning opportunity into impact, right? That's the one thing that we want to focus on here in this panel. And I'll let everybody do their own introductions, but we really want to use the physical infrastructure that exists to look at what the training infrastructure and the workforce development models we have in Prince George's County and really put the focus on human infrastructure, right? Looking at, turning those K-12 programs, the vocational schools, all of those into a funnel program, into registered apprenticeship that helps them realize careers in the construction industry with good jobs and benefits. So with that, I want to turn it over to the panel and allow everybody 2 minutes to kind of give an introduction of yourself, your role in government or your entity, and also some of the work that you're doing right now that matches the goals of what we're trying to accomplish today.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Friedman. I am from the Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration. I am the regional administrator for the Mid-Atlantic region, which is Maryland is part of. Employment and Training Administration, we fund the public workforce system, one of those best kept secrets they talked about a few minutes ago. So we fund the states and our locals through grants that help, pay for the workforce centers, American Job Centers. We also do discretionary grants that are focused on infrastructure funding. I just want to say congratulations. This is a wonderful event. This is a wonderful facility. I'm so glad to be here today, and I look forward to talking to my partners.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Crystal Knight-Lee. I'm the Chief of Staff at WSSC Water. I work directly for our General Manager and CEO. And I, too, want to say congratulations on the ribbon cutting and the Career Center. I am a Prince George's County native. I grew up here right off of Walker Mill Road, and so I'm happy to be here and to represent WSSC Water. We really are a hidden gem, GEM. Without water, you cannot do anything. And so we really want to take a few moments, hopefully during the panel, to talk about the value of water and the type of careers that we have and the work that we're doing to continue to support our community. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. There we go. Okay, turns off. Am I on now? Maybe. No? Okay, well, can I use yours? Okay. We're very collaborative in the federal government, so hopefully. That's working either, actually.
It's on.
Hello. It is on? Yep. Okay, sorry. So I'm Paige Shevlin. I am the Strategic Advisor for Infrastructure Workforce Development at the U.S. Department of Transportation. My role at USDOT is focused on implementing the bipartisan infrastructure law in a way that creates good quality jobs and better access to those jobs for populations that have previously been underrepresented, including women and people of color and many others that haven't had the opportunity to have these great union construction careers. And I want to say I am so happy to be here. Before I went to the Department of Transportation, I was a workforce development nerd myself. I have worked at the Department of Labor in the past. I was very involved with the local workforce system in Seattle, King County, out in Washington. And so this is really the blending of my two worlds, the prior workforce world and the construction career training. And it is so great to see there are so few partnerships between unions and workforce boards across the country. And I hope that this can be a model for the nation as we try and implement this law and use it to bring access to good jobs to people.
Wonderful. Good morning. My name is Chris Castro. Nope, not yet. Over to you. Switch out. Yeah. Thank you. Test 1, 2. Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Castro. I serve as the Chief of Staff at the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of State and Community Energy Programs. It's a newly formed office at the Department of Energy. But I'm coming at this work with over a decade on the ground in Orlando, Florida. I served as our Chief Sustainability and Resilience Officer there, did a lot with workforce development in this space, and soon to be a Prince George County resident with me and my family. We just put down on a property over here. I just wanted to mention, the clean energy economy is one of the greatest economic and job-creating opportunities of the 21st century, period. And buildings play an important role in that transition. Most people don't know that upwards of 30% of the energy that's being consumed in our homes and our buildings often goes to waste. And it's a huge opportunity to help to retrofit, to improve not only the efficiency, but the indoor environmental quality and the health and well-being for those who live, work, learn, and play in these facilities. At the Department of Energy, we are dedicated to investing in the workforce and in the future jobs that help us to make this transition. And I look forward to sharing more about what we're doing, both within our office and across the department, to accelerate this transition with you all.
Thanks, Chris.
Good morning. My name is Jim Chandler. I serve as Assistant Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Economic Development, Prince George's County. Grew up in a union household, and certainly when you heard Delegate Lewis speaking this morning, certainly identify with a lot of what he said. You know, my job at the county is really to deliver a lot of the vertical and horizontal development within the county. I work a great deal with private development on vertical, but also responsible for horizontal development, infrastructure, New Carrollton, certainly Blue Line Corridor, which has been a hot topic, and soon to be up in Greenbelt. And certainly, you know, I often see, you know, cranes around various parts of the county, and it very excited, right? That is a sign of progress. Also recognizing we do not have enough people to be able to deliver on these projects, and it creates a tremendous amount of strain. And certainly in seeing what is here today, very hopeful that we're creating opportunities for generations for skilled labor that can help us deliver these projects. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And just before we get into questions, just want to clarify, if the Boston accent is messing anybody up, I actually do live in Maryland now, so giving myself a little street cred here, but. So why don't we jump right into it, because we have a lot to cover. I want to start with Chris, Paige, and Jennifer on the opportunities that the Biden administration has presented us in funding, in what direction and focus we want to see jobs and economic development be created, and some of the opportunities that exist here in Maryland. We'll start with Chris and come back this way so we can tie it in with workforce development.
Sure, that's wonderful. Hopefully you all know by now that President Biden and Congress have delivered in the most historic way to really transition our economy in one that's just and cleaner, one that really focuses on elevating labor and the importance of good jobs. You know, over $500 billion, half $1 trillion, has been invested in this climate and clean energy space. And at the Department of Energy, $100 billion of that has come for us to manage. And the interesting thing is DOE historically has not received money with this type of mission tag around equitable deployment of technologies. We have historically been a research and development agency for the last 46 plus years. And now with this new money is requiring us to think differently about DOE's role in accelerating this progress. So we have these huge North Stars. We're trying to move towards 100% clean electric grid by 2035. We're trying to move towards a zero carbon economy, ultimately by the year 2050. And in doing so, really prop up the necessary industries that are needed to create these jobs, right? So within SCEP, this new Office of State and Community Energy Programs, we really focus on being this bridge between the federal government and our states, our tribes, our local governments, and other community-serving institutions. We manage $16 billion of funding opportunities and technical assistance programs, 28 different initiatives, and 4 of those are focused on workforce development and training that really are trying to get the workforce ready for taking advantage of the grants, the tax credits, the rebates, the prizes, all of the different mechanisms to drive forward this type of an economy. So really quickly, we have 4 important grants to be aware of. One is a state-based contractor training program. We're working with the state energy offices across the entire country to create funds that allow them to train minority and small businesses across our states so that they're prepared on how to properly install these new clean energy technologies, things like heat pumps, things like battery systems, things like rooftop solar. Secondly, we have a program that's focused on energy auditors. Energy auditor training is one of the greatest opportunities to get into in the buildings trade because it is the enabler to get access to a lot of these funding and incentives. And so we have $40 million that is soon going to open up for states to apply and begin developing these programs. We have a career skills training program that's actually still open until mid-February, and it's actually ideal for facilities like this, because the intent is to bring labor and industry and provide both in-classroom and on-the-job apprenticeship programs that lead to a credentialing in the building efficiency and technology space. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to get in, and nonprofit organizations are eligible entities, so we're really encouraging those to apply. And I'd say lastly is this focus on community benefit agreements. At the Department of Energy, every dollar that comes out of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act require the applicants to develop a community benefit plan. This includes how they're going to advance the President's Justice 40 initiative, where our goal is 40% of all of this new money to flow to historically disadvantaged communities and underrepresented households. For us in SCEP, 40 is the floor. Our goal is to go much beyond that, and that's the focus as we develop and design these programs. In addition, how are you improving diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility on the job? How are you creating good jobs and partnering with labor? And lastly, what about community benefit agreements? How are you involving the communities who will ultimately benefit from these investments in the process of designing, in the process of selecting, and then hopefully getting jobs and careers in implementing those moving forward? So really, we're trying to think about this holistically, and I'm proud of the work the Department of Energy is doing to align with what you all are doing here and accelerate this across the board. Over to you, Paige.
I think they fixed my mic. Yes, now it's very loud. Okay. So many similar themes with my colleague from the Department of Energy, because we are working across the Biden-Harris administration to make sure that all of the dollars that go out have a preference, a selection and consideration. We all call it different things, but every single agency that is putting out infrastructure funds is scoring applicants based on whether or not they are thinking about their workforce needs, whether they are going to be creating good paying union jobs, and how they are increasing access to those jobs. And so we are doing that at DOT as well. The Department of Transportation has $650 billion of the $1 trillion that is being implemented through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. There are many opportunities through that for workforce development funding. Unfortunately, we don't have any dedicated workforce development funding like my colleagues at Department of Energy, but a lot of our funds can be leveraged for workforce development, and I do want to talk about two of those types of funding. The first is our competitive funding. I think there are some transportation entities in the room, so I want to make it clear, when you are applying for our federal funds, our RAISE grants, our infra grants, our transit grants, you can write workforce development into your budget, and it can be funded by us as long as it is for jobs on the project. That's not a big constraint, right? That can help you to provide supportive services for people who are working on those projects. It can help you to provide supports to the apprentices. It can help you to run a small pre-apprenticeship cohort that's going to serve that project. So that is a great opportunity when you're applying for our competitive funds. The second big lever that we have is the $350 billion of our dollars that are formula dollars that are going out to state DOTs. And a huge chunk of that money can be used for workforce development. So state DOTs are getting $48 billion annually that can be used for workforce development. Now, they also need to use that money to fund highways and bridges and their core work. But just like any company, right? We would ask any company in this room that they need to put some money into talent development and to workforce recruitment. And we should ask the same of our state DOTs. And one thing that is great here in Maryland is the state of Maryland has already made that commitment. So I had the pleasure to work with folks in the city of Baltimore and with the state on our Baltimore Workforce Hub, which was a White House-led initiative. And as a part of that, the Maryland government, the governor's office, the Maryland Department of Transportation committed to using project labor agreements on more projects. And they also committed to using some of those highway funds for workforce development and are working on ways to do that. So you have one of the good states. You're lucky to be in one of the good states that's using that money. And I think we're going to see a lot more states taking advantage of that in the future, and excited to see what Maryland does with that. I do want to talk a minute about the importance of project labor agreements and making commitments to union jobs, because to the point about there is a workforce shortage that people like to talk about, right? That's only true if those jobs are not good jobs. If those are good paying union jobs, people can be trained for them. Yes, it costs money. It's expensive sometimes to help people get to a point of stability where they can take advantage of those union jobs, but they will want them And we have to make sure that they are union jobs by having project labor agreements and other labor standards in every single project at a state level. Like I said, Maryland as a state is already doing it, and at a local level as well.
Thank you, Paige.
So my first piece of advice from the Department of Labor, Employment Training Administration, when talking about this question is, I guess maybe a little information. Unlike my colleagues over here, the infrastructure funding isn't coming to the Department of Labor. They're coming through the other agencies. So Chris, as you mentioned, it's new for you to have the money. It's new for us not to have the money. So my first piece of advice is become best friends with these two on the stage. But really, what we have here at Employment Training Administration and what we talked about a little bit earlier, Walter mentioned it, we have the key ingredient. I know maybe it's missing a little bit, hard to identify, but we have the people. So as you heard, all the connections to workforce development in the funding, we are the matching. We are the conveners to bring the people, the trainers, the trainees to help fulfill the jobs and the grants. So we do have a couple key opportunities we'll talk about, but really focusing on, for our role, which is a little bit different, honestly. You know, we're used to having the training dollars and having training going out there. So we are all partners, we all work together, but it's a different partnership and really explaining us. So everyone in workforce development, we just give you my little 2 cents here is develop your elevator pitch. You know what you do and you know the value you have. Our partners here, our other agencies are in this new field, they're funding it, they're talking about workforce development. It is new, I heard you say, Chris, it's new for you. You wanna hear our elevator pitch. We have the people, we have the experience, partner with us. So I would say to everyone here, start developing your elevator pitch. Think about it right now, 30 seconds, when you talk to these guys after they eat their lunch, why you're important. But the really important thing here is thinking about is, you talk about good jobs. And so one of the ways we're working here, Employment Training Administration, is to put out guidance. And I wrote down a couple of them just to remind myself on the way down on the train down here for the infrastructure. But first thing is we did partner with EDA to have good jobs principles. Because as Paige mentioned, people want jobs and saying there's and they can't fill the jobs. Well, you can't fill jobs if they're not gonna be good jobs. So we put out good jobs principles. Also at the department earlier this year, we had a guidance put out about increasing employer and workforce system access to good jobs. Once again, focusing, you can hear about it. We had training employment guidance we put out earlier, also talking about building pathways to infrastructure, how to make those connections, how to build those elevator pitches. We have given out some funding. We talked about infrastructure. We had some solicitations last year about how to have infrastructure jobs and connections. But really what we're also focusing on in money, good to you, it's all about apprenticeships and really value apprenticeships. So in a few minutes, I'm gonna talk about some of the agreements we've had about apprenticeships with our partners here, but really focusing in on money is going out. So that's where we're focusing our dollars on. Not the billions or the trillions or the gazillions I was saying earlier. It's a much smaller number, but really thinking about how we can use our workforce dollars to be that convener and also to give the key ingredient here, which is the people and the partnerships to that.
Absolutely, thank you. One thing I do want to point out is that we're talking about a lot of money, capturing a lot of this money into workforce programs so that participants and students don't absorb the cost, right? There's no cost to them for their apprenticeship training. So we're alleviating that. Everybody has seen the memes that, the alternative to a 4-year degree is the construction trades because you have no college debt after the fact. There is no debt to the participant. They earn while they learn. So they're making money. They're already in their career and building that up and moving up that career ladder to get there. One issue that we have is retainment in keeping people in those trades. If people are able to earn while they learn and get credentialed and move along that career ladder, that helps with retainment in the industry. So really it's how do we collaborate on getting those funding opportunities and putting that resource into our workforce development model in registered apprenticeship. We're gonna take questions right at the end, as soon as we're done. 2 more questions and we'll get there. So this question is directed towards Crystal and Jim. Being that we are in Prince George's County, we've heard a lot about the federal infrastructure funding, the billions and trillions of dollars. What do we see as major projects that you're applying for or that are already in the pipeline for Prince George's County?
So one of the projects I mentioned earlier is at New Carrollton. So everyone familiar with New Carrollton? So the county received a $20.5 million raised grant, which USDOT. And certainly was able to leverage that with both $22 million in county commitment and then Our partners at the state of Maryland came in and provided $50 million for the project. And so that is a major initiative for the Alsobrooks administration. Requires a lot of coordination, a lot of partners, including our friends at WMATA, who have been incredibly helpful in getting that project forward. It is a process, though, through RAISE. And so we're right now going through all the environmental pieces and all the prerequisites. Good old NEPA, which we were actually approved as of November 30th. So got that done in a really short period of time. But now moving forward with getting sort of all the documents together. So it is a lengthy process. It's a little bit of a learning curve. But certainly it's delivering on a transformative project there. I had the pleasure of walking with some folks from federal government there a couple of weeks ago, and just looking at the scale of the project is absolutely incredible. That will be one of the premier Eastern Seaboard transit hubs. And, you know, certainly with Union Station preparing for renovations, a lot of the Eastern Seaboard traffic is now going to come through New Carrollton. And so for us to be prepared with, you know, all of the infrastructure related there, if you go down there today, you see infrastructure, you see parking garage. That's really just the start. And I teased one of the folks there. So a lot of people walking through here think this is all happening for a parking garage. We may want to put a vision out here to show them the scale of what's about to happen, because I don't think your regular users realize, you know, the transformative effect that's going to happen there. And so, yeah, but again,
they're pulling from the council meeting minutes?
I don't think they're pulling from the meeting minutes. And so, you know, showing more visuals, giving people, bringing them in, showing them, you know, the transformative effect of these federal dollars, the state dollars and county dollars, resulting in projects that are really meaningful for our users, and certainly for the folks who are looking for opportunities for employment there, that we're going to need a lot of them.
Absolutely. We got to quantify the impact and make sure we're communicating that out in the public, because really it's a recruitment initiative and getting people into these jobs. And we have to reimagine engagement, right? Everybody has a vehicle to engage their communities, to get people, you know, the information they need to get these careers. We have to utilize every asset that we have to make sure that we're getting that information out there. Crystal?
Okay, so I love this question, and I do want to step back a little bit just to talk about our role as a public water utility and the bipartisan infrastructure law, and I do have some stats I wanted to share with you. So we're grateful to the Biden-Harris administration for in the investment in water. From my understanding, it's a historic investment, and that $1.2 trillion investment was able to fund $50 billion in water. And so that's $50 billion across the country. Now, the way that kind of works down to WSSC Water is $105 million is how we will be able to benefit from that. And then we'll be able to apply those funds to our capital improvement projects. In the water industry, a lot of times you don't see the infrastructure. The infrastructure is underground. And oftentimes we kind of take for granted the fact that we can go in and brush our teeth in the morning, flush, and you don't really think about where the water is coming from. And so it's our jobs to make sure that we're doing that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to make sure that you don't have to worry about it. So with the funding that we are receiving, I also wanted to make a note to let you know that most of our funding right now comes from ratepayer dollars. Many of you in the room are probably Prince George's County or Montgomery County residents. And what we are struggling with is that the cost of doing business is increasing. And so we are looking for external funds to be able to continue to support the operations and the maintenance work that we need to do. So the way that translates into jobs is over the next 5 years, we expect to spend $5 billion in capital improvement projects. And the work that we need to do is related to construction, related to repairing our water mains, related to maintaining our plants and our depots. And so working for a public water utility is almost like working for a city. We have all kinds of jobs, meter mechanics, operations and mechanical positions, accountants, customer service reps, meter readers. And so those are the types of jobs that we need. And in fact, we are struggling to find electrical and mechanical talent. And in full disclosure, our partnership in terms of labor is with AFSCME and Teamsters. We have a great partnership with them. And so just wanted to let you know that we are committed to serving all of our customers. Workforce development is very important to us. And we're looking forward to, I also wanted to mention the EPA grant. We partnered recently with Employ Prince George's and a number of community partners to apply for a workforce development grant with the EPA. And we are anxiously awaiting to see if we will be awarded. It's the EPA grant is awarding $20 million to utilities and organizations across the country. And we partnered with Employ Prince George's, our community colleges, and other organizations so that we can build a workforce development consortium. And we're doing this with the city of Baltimore so we can identify the job opportunities across the region and be able to begin to create pipelines to get students in and those that are interested in the water sector. So please come and join us in the water sector. It's a great place to be, and without water, there's nothing that you could really do. So I'm a big champion and advocate for the water industry.
Thank you, Crystal. And I want to take this time to announce a new partnership with the Painters and Allied Trades on the next application. And I think, one thing that we want to keep reiterating is that unions are a workforce partner. On a lot of the applications for federal funding, one of the criteria to follow up with is, are you engaging with labor unions? Do you have a plan for workforce development or workforce diversity? We help along with that and could give you those points when they're scoring those applications. So just want to put that out there.
And it's not just 5 or 10%, it's 20% of the merit review process at the Department of Energy is around how you're engaging workforce, driving workforce, and advancing the Justice 40 effort. So it's a significant part of any application we're looking at, 20%.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So we've been talking a lot on the macro level about what funding, what major projects are out there. Just to bring it down a little bit, because the next question is on building trades. Just want to bring it down to the micro level. So in this building, we train to energy efficiency through our glazing program. In building envelope work, we train to transportation through our industrial paint course. Same thing with water infrastructure. Everything in water infrastructure needs a protective coating to battle corrosion. That's what we do here and what I'm hearing is there's a huge need for those jobs right now, and that we need to recruit more people into those training programs to realize and make an impact with these dollars. So my question is, what role do the building trades play here in regards to federal funding in mention? We did mention the selection criteria and how we can engage, but I'd like to hear it from some of the people on the panel.
Yeah, I can start there. I want to talk about a really important tool that the building trades can use and that transportation partners can use, which is local hire. So local and economic hiring preferences allow transportation entities to put in the contract that there will be a preference for hiring people from certain zip codes or hiring people with certain characteristics that make them, that are barriers to employment. So for example, you can preference hiring of people who only have a GED. You can preference hiring of people who are coming out of incarceration. You can preference hiring of people who are on public assistance or who are enrolled in WIOA, right? And this is a tool that was previously only allowed under pilot authority before the bipartisan infrastructure law, and now it is eligible under every single Department of Transportation construction project that is funded, unless it's a port project. That's the only place where it's not eligible. So our airports, our highways, our transit agencies, New Carrollton's transit improvements, right? You could be using local hire, and I want to say that it works best, in my opinion, when it is very local, what people call hyper-local. And this gets to what you were saying earlier about people understanding the expectations and the benefit that that can provide. So if you can say, this project is going to require 1,000 workers. We know that 200 of them are going to be apprentices. And we're going to prioritize 100 of those 200 apprenticeship slots for people from these zip codes. then you can build training programs in those zip codes, and the people in those zip codes know that there is an actual job opportunity that is attached to that training program. So that's what I would really suggest as you all are moving forward on this great partnership, is to think really intently about where the people are going to come from and target and build programs around those same populations that are targeted through your agreements. And if the project is a building trades, and if it's already got a project labor agreement, that's something that you can work with the building trades on, and they can, I know that they will be willing partners in that effort.
Thank you, Paige.
Certainly at Department of Energy, building trades play an integral role in advancing all of these goals. Two programs I want to really focus on within SCEP that I think can articulate this. One is we manage the Weatherization Assistance Program within SCEP, which is the longest serving energy efficiency program for low-income communities, now 47 years in the making. As you might be aware, weatherization is really about ensuring that our envelope and major systems are efficient, they're tight, they're sealed, so that our conditioned spaces essentially aren't leaking and wasting energy, right? Insulation, duct repair, window and door caulking. Most people, as I mentioned earlier, about 30% of the energy that we're consuming is going to waste, and a lot of it is going to waste because of this envelope space, right? So weatherization, the funding at the Department of Energy, we have $3.5 billion now because of the bipartisan infrastructure law. Those dollars flow to the states, and the states then work with community action agencies across every single part of this country in order to actually deploy these upgrades. And I'm saying that now weatherization's coming into a modernization. We're starting to think about other improvements, including how do we electrify these homes as well? How do we start to add electric generation like solar PV in order to lower their overall cost and address the energy burden issue? We know that low-income households are the most energy burdened in this country. On average, Americans pay about 6% of your annual income towards energy. And in many parts of our low-income pockets of our country, they're spending 10, 12, sometimes 15%. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but the whole point is weatherization is one of the major ways. The second big move that's happening now is unlocking what's called home energy rebates. These were actually in the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, and my office, SCEP, has $8.8 billion of rebates that will now start to flow to the state energy offices, and those states are going to open up rebates for consumers to be able to get appliances to be swapped out from gas furnaces to heat pump HVAC, or your water heaters into hybrid heat pump water heaters, or even upgrading your electrical panels and your wiring in the home so that they're able to be ready for the future electric vehicles or rooftop solar that you might want to add in the future. There are up to $14,000 of point of sale rebates for the lowest income households in this country. 80% AMI and below are eligible for up to $14,000 at the point of sale. They're not using their own money and getting a rebate check. It's literally taken off the top at the retail store or at a contractor, okay? That's a big, big deal. And in addition, even moderate income households up to 150% AMI can benefit for at least half of that amount. So we're talking about, when we talked about the spurring of the clean energy economy, these rebates are going to create a market transformation in how we renovate our homes, our multifamily buildings, and put people to work in order to improve quality of life, health and well-being, and of course, address the climate and energy crisis that we're facing today. So keep in mind, weatherization, rebates, two big drivers for building trades work.
Right.
We're all sharing. There you go. I want to talk about a really cool announcement we made earlier in the Department of Labor. We entered into a $20 million cooperative agreement with Trades Futures to advance equitable opportunities in construction through the department's scaling apprenticeship readiness across the building trades. This is a readiness program where we're going to train more than 13,000 participants, which 7,000 of them will enter into registered apprenticeships afterwards as preparation. So it's a really cool investment we have, saying we're partners with it. As you mentioned, a couple of statistics, 90% of registered apprenticeships are retention. We found that $80,000 is the average salary after, and over the lifetime of registered apprenticeship, they earn $300,000 more than their counterparts. So we understand it's really important to have that partnership, and that's a $20 million investment we made earlier this year.
Thank you. This has been a really good panel. I want to just reiterate that we're here to, create impact out of opportunity. And from what we're hearing, we're talking about generational wealth, right? We're talking about a next generation of people that are able to realize careers that are not just pathway to the middle class, but sky's the limit. You're creating generational wealth that can then put, families into careers and positions because of that money that's being made from careers that I just heard, the average is $80,000 a year in there. So I want to thank the panel, but before we get out, I'm not sure if we have time for questions. I know we had a question out in the audience, but we definitely want to keep on time and keep on schedule. So just want to open it up really quick for some questions if we have any out in the crowd. Oh, you're good? Okay. Well, thank you. I want to turn it back to the man I aspire to be, Walter Simmons, and I think we all aspire to be a Walter Simmons and make sure that everybody gets the opportunities he's providing. So, Walter.
Let's give a round of applause for John and our panel, please. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, let's get a picture with everybody in the front, please. John, you got to get in it too. I don't know if it's not on social media, it didn't happen. And while they're doing that, those in our second panel, can you get ready to come up here, please? All right. So now we've talked about, funding availability, projects, what's happening. We're also looking at, now we're going to talk about how do we capitalize on that. We have, our next panel is going to be more of talking about our current economy, our labor force and workforce, what's happening and what do we plan to do with this opportunity. So I want to bring to the stage our monitor, Rachel Stevens, who's the Executive Director of the Governor's Workforce Development Board. Thank you, Rachel. And she's going to join me up here. I'm going to serve on this panel, but also Brian Corden. Can you come to the front, please? We also have Elizabeth Crowfoot, who is an economist with Lightcast. And then Britton Lofton from the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. And that's John said.
All right, and Walter's on the panel for this one instead of moderating, so thank you for joining us and sticking around for this afternoon. And it's wonderful to see so many people out here on a Friday celebrating something as incredible as the achievement of opening this job center. For those of you who I haven't had the chance to meet yet, I'm Rachel Stevens Parker. As Walter said, I'm the Executive Director of the Governor's Workforce Development Board, and since I have the microphone, I'll start our introductions of our panel off by telling you a little bit more about us. I actually see a couple board members here in the audience. Mr. Alexander Austin, thank you for joining, and Brian Cavey as well. The Governor's Workforce Board is, you heard Walter talk about the local board here in Prince George's County. And in addition to the 13 local boards across Maryland, the Governor has a Workforce Development Board. I've been appointed for going on 4 months now, since August, so I'm honestly still kind of learning which way is up, in addition to going around the state meeting wonderful people like those of you around the room. And we've been in a stage over the last few months, since the governor kind of launched his board in September with new leadership, of really re-envisioning what the role of the Governor's Workforce Board and really what workforce development and the system should look like in Maryland, and how we can help foster greater collaboration and partnerships, really just like the ones that we're celebrating here today. At the state level, our board's new vision and mission is to focus on developing strategies, aligning resources and partnerships, and accelerating implementation of those strategies to ensure that both employers and people, that Marylanders really have a real chance to thrive, and that our economic future truly meets the governor's mission of leaving no one behind. We know that that's really core to what we're here to speak about today. So I'm really thrilled to be joining a panel to talk about what's going on here in Prince George's County in the labor market here, and how that compares, across the state, across the region, across the country, and what we can learn from this conversation. So without further ado, I'll begin by inviting our panelists to each introduce themselves, and I'll start here to my left.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Crowfoot. I'm a senior economist and a researcher at Lightcast. I actually started my career at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, so I spent 10 years producing those valuable data that everyone clamors about, especially today. Today's was Jobs Friday, so anybody who was excited about that, as I am, come talk to me. I then spent another decade at the Conference Board, really working with employers on their labor shortage challenges. So I've spent most of my career in that area, really working with companies, working to really alleviate those challenges, like I said. And today at Lightcast, we are a big data firm, specifically big labor market data. We have data on the types of jobs that are available, what employers are hiring, what types of skills are they looking for. And on the other side of that spectrum, we have data on the workforce. Who's out there? What are the people? What's their education? What are the skills that they have? And so our goal is to make better matches in the labor market, putting those two pieces together, helping educators, helping employers, helping government entities, communities make those better matches. And this is a really great opportunity. I think workforce development is at the heart of what we want to do with our data. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation today. Brian.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Corden. I'm the business manager here at the International Painters Allied Trades, District Council 51. Prior to this, I got started in the IUPAT as a glazier apprentice. I went through a registered apprenticeship program here at DC 51, graduated that program, and then shortly after started helping out like part-time teaching, ended up becoming an educational coordinator for the glaziers here, and then shortly after became the apprenticeship training director here. 3 years ago, I was nominated and voted in as the business manager, where a big key for us is workforce development, keeping a pulse of what the industry needs are from the employer standpoint and from the worker standpoint to ensure that we're meeting the moments of the opportunities that are on the horizon.
Hello, how are you doing, everyone? My name is Britton Lofton. I'm the legislative representative for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. I live in Prince George's County. I work in D.C. It's exciting to be here today to see everyone come together around this partnership for workforce development, because many of the programs that Walter and Brian and everyone mentioned up here today that they're working on, we lobbied for, and folks at the National Building Trades contributed to. And so this vision that we see all coming together right now is so rewarding, and I think it's going to yield a certain economic impact.
Do you need an introduction, Walter?
No, You're good? I think we're good to go.
Great, awesome. Well, you can see we have a great panel for this discussion. And one of the values of the Millard administration and that the board has really taken on in our work is always being data-driven and heart-led. But with that, I certainly want to start us off kind of looking at some data points, and Elizabeth, getting your take. In September, Maryland had a 1.6% unemployment rate, I think the lowest in the country, if I'm not mistaken at that point. And here in Prince George's County, it had a 1.7% unemployment rate. So as our economist on the panel, I'm curious for your thoughts on what you think local leaders should know about these historically low unemployment rates, and what story might be there that isn't necessarily shown in that number.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think it's so important to think about the historical trends and why we are where we are today in terms of the severe acute labor shortages. And if we think back to before the pandemic, around 2019, the unemployment rate here in Prince George's County was 3.3%, and that was considered low. And we are well below that. So very, very tight labor market. There really are three different trends that I wanted to talk about that are driving what we're feeling today. The first is a decline in labor force participation rates. There are fewer people that are participating, that are looking for jobs, that are working today, and that's particularly true here in PG County. The second trend is about demographics, just in terms of the sheer number of individuals that are retiring, and this is a very important and critical point, especially in the trades, right? About 40% of construction trades workers now are over the age of 45. So they are quickly approaching retirement age. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have fewer people entering the workforce. So that's going to squeeze labor supply. And then the third trend is migration. We have fewer people entering the state of Maryland, more people exiting. The same thing is true for PG County. So, if you're not finding the workers locally, one solution is to import them, right, from other states, from other countries, and that has not been a viable solution in recent years. So, just to sort of double click on those three trends, we have seen that labor force participation has been declining since around 2000, and this is really systemic of the whole country, of Maryland in particular. But what was really interesting is right before the pandemic, pretty much between 2015 and 2019, we saw a huge increase in the labor force participation rate in Maryland. Here in PG County, we had more people, especially Black and brown people, entering the workforce. It took longer, right, for these populations to really benefit from the long economic period of growth that we saw before the pandemic. But we saw it. And then the pandemic happened and labor force participation fell off a cliff. And we still are not at the point where we were before the pandemic, particularly here in PG County and in Maryland as a whole. And a lot of that was driven by women dropping out of the labor force. A lot of women, especially in Maryland, they had been making a lot of gains prior to the pandemic erased all of that. The other thing is, in terms of workforce participation here particularly, so before in Prince George's County, we were about 72% in 2019 of workforce participation. We're now at 64%. That's 8 percentage points difference between where we were in before the pandemic and today. That's huge. That's thousands of people. And to give you some comparison, so we're 8 percentage points lower here. The state of Maryland is 4 percentage points lower as a whole, and the US is like less than 0.5%. So PG County has had an outsized impact and has not been able to recover. So what that means in terms of the actual number of people, so PG County needs 31,000 more people in the labor force today to get back. Prince George's County, yes. Prince George's County needs 31,000 more people today in the labor force to return to pre-pandemic levels. And that has implications for employment, right? So not only are less people in the workforce, it means that about 25,000 fewer people have jobs today than they did before the pandemic. So fewer people out there looking for jobs and fewer people working. So that's the first impact of declining workforce participation. The second is about demographic shifts, right? So a lot of those participation rates also, in terms of the number of people in the older age range, right? The 55 to 64, those participation rates also declined, especially among women. In terms of the participation rates of younger people, 20 to 24 years of age, those have also declined at a much faster pace, again, here in Prince George's County than in Maryland as a whole, and again, as compared to the US as a whole as well. So again, we're being squeezed demographically. More people are exiting the workforce than those that are entering it. Again, in the trades, that's a huge deal, right? We have to figure out how do we get younger people interested in construction, in the trades, Recently, I heard someone say, how do we get these kids that are used to playing Xbox all day long interested in, swinging hammers and being involved and producing physical things in our communities. So it's that challenge of how do you speak to this new generation of workers. And then lastly, in terms of the migration trends that we've been seeing, so Maryland is one of the top 10 states in the country that's seeing more outflows than inflows of people. 1 and 2 are California and New York, for obvious reasons, right? It's expensive, the whole pandemic. Maryland is number 7 out of all 50 states. Maryland's seeing outflows. And this has been happening for the past 10 years or so, and it wasn't as big of a problem as it was in the past, because we had other, international migration, for example, to help us offset some of the domestic migration that was people that were leaving Maryland in general. But since 2015, we've seen international migration decline, and we haven't been able to really offset the domestic losses that Maryland has been seeing. And this is the same trend in Prince George's County as well. So we're losing more people to surrounding counties in Maryland, in Virginia, and D.C. And in 2020 alone, Prince George's County lost 10,000 people to those surrounding areas.
Wow.
So, those are just some of the 3 trends that I really wanted to highlight. Yeah. So the decline in the labor force participation, those demographic shifts, more older people leaving, fewer younger people, and then if you don't have enough people here, you have to find them elsewhere, and we haven't been able to do that either. So those migration patterns are really impacting the supply of labor in the county and the state overall.
Thank you so much. And I think some of those numbers really put a fine point on it, and a fine point on why creating opportunities like the opportunities that will be created here in this center are so important. Walter, with those numbers kind of in mind, based on what Elizabeth shared and data, that is being reported that you've been looking at, how is Prince George's County public workforce system really working to prepare Prince George's County residents and businesses for economic success in this climate?
So I think when we got a lot of American Rescue Plan Act dollars. So, a lot of people talk about during the pandemic, did you reopen? We never closed, right? So the first thing that we did is we helped businesses lay off people. We did the opposite of what a workforce system does. So we did the hourly employee relief fund. We raised $1 million, and we gave people $200 and $300 gift cards throughout the pandemic. I see some of our staff, some of our community partners here, our board members. They helped us lay people off. But what we said is, hey, here's $200, $300 in between the next few weeks before you get your unemployment check. But what we did is we created a new system, our virtual career center, and we registered all those people. We registered 8,000 people in 2020 when our job centers were physically closed. And the goal was when the county reopened, we would re-engage. As Elizabeth mentioned, we have lost 20,000 workers from our workforce since the pandemic. So while unemployment is low, we lost 20,000 workers. And that's key. When you look at the budget deficits at the state and federal level, one of the things that I keep screaming is, how does the government make money? Income tax. Income tax is generated by where people live. So if our residents aren't working, or if we have less residents working at all, every single person, every single job lost, that's one less person making a deposit into the county budget and into the state budget. So if Maryland lost 100,000 workers, that's 100,000 less deposits going into the state government. Prince George's County lost 20,000 workers, that's 20,000 less deposits. So when people are saying, hey, we got a deficit, what do you think your bank account will look like if you lost, if your withdrawals are outweighing your deposits? You're getting ready to be in the negative, right? So we brought out, so one of the things when we engaged those 8,000 people, you all will see our mobile unit outside. We started increasing outreach. We started increasing events. We started increasing, because we're going to try to find these 20,000 people, right? So that's the key to our success. Second, quality jobs. That's why we're here today. We want to figure out how to make more people more money, right? So incumbent worker training, remember that. That's one thing we're going to be talking about. We got low unemployment. We still want to help our unemployed people, but we want to work on all of the residents in Prince George's County that are in lower wage jobs. Brookings released a report that said that we had a higher percentage of adults in minimum wage positions. So we're going to be focusing on employed people in lower wages that are working with all of you all, and how do we get them higher paying jobs? And we think apprenticeship is going to be key. We want to go, we know that WIOA with incumbent worker training is a little more flexibility on and eligibility. So we want to target all, and this is new to workforce. We want to target employed people in low wage jobs and help them make more money. The third point, outside of engaging more people in our workforce, helping our existing employed people make more money, the third point is young people. We have the blueprint for Maryland, which does cost a lot of money. Our focus here is how do we get that money back? We want, CEO House was here. We got 6,000 to 8,000 graduates a year. We want to say after they graduate, I see Amy back there. Amy does some great work. After they graduate, what happens? We want to register them in the system, and within 30 days, they're employed. And they're employed in a quality job. If they're not going to college, they're not going to track, we want to get them all employed. And that's why we want to create a pipeline, especially in the building trades, to engage them in our CTE programs that the CEO House mentioned. And then after they graduate, direct pipeline, Painters Union, Bricklayers Union, IBEW, all of these building trades, steam fitters, all of that, right? How do we create that pipeline? And that's why I feel like the trades and the building trades unions are going to be a pipeline to do that. So we have to focus on the next generation of talent. So that's really what we're looking for. And that's what we're going to be focusing on with our workforce board, our board of directors in the future.
Well, we can cover that. That's right. Well, and Brian, I'm going to turn to you next. Walter talked about, in that final point, really focusing on youth, bringing youth into the skilled trades, building that skilled workforce, and providing that pipeline to young people. We know that's, Walter can make it sound easy sometimes, but it's a lot of work. So I'd love to know, as we think about how can we replicate partnerships like this more and more, can you tell us what brought you to the table? What was your incentive for partnering with Employ Prince George's and opening the doors for this center? And what do you hope to see from it?
I mean, how we kind of got where we are is I was talking to, I believe the individuals in the room, he's our paint coordinator, Andy Yeager. I was talking to him years ago, and he talked about how when he came in, which is probably in like the 60s or something like that, but they actually ran a pre-apprenticeship program. It wasn't called that back then, and it kind of he planted that seed in my head, and we started looking at various different things, and we just went to the motto of let's just stop accepting our apprentices and let's start creating our apprentices. And I think in today's, in now's world, right, we have a lot of great opportunities sitting around us. I think the Maryland Blueprint, even though it is quite the thing to look at and try to figure out how we're going to achieve it, but that is going to create a huge opportunity for the young people in our communities to understand what these other career paths look like. So hopefully that when they become 17, 18 years old, they're not going out into the real world and just unemployed. They kind of have another option to what they can embark on. And I know we're lining ourselves up well with that also by we changed our apprenticeship standards to allow for youth apprenticeship and things like that. Another big piece that I know we embarked on years ago was, and I think it's a key point to what the young lady said earlier, is you're going to start bringing a new generation of a workforce. You have to start looking at what maybe barriers you have in place that are not allowing them to take part in or have that opportunity that you can provide. The first thing that we did, I think it was 8 years ago, is we removed our high school diploma GED regulation. So to register for our apprenticeship program, you don't even need to have a high school diploma or GED. The next thing we removed was you must have a driver's license. And today's youth, they're fine with Ubering. They're fine with trying to use something else. And we've seen relative success from that. The last thing that's going to go into effect as of January 1 is we've removed our drug test policy for entry. So you don't need to have pass a drug test for entry into our apprenticeship program. We have other things in place to kind of monitor. But again, why are we putting in barriers to the next generation that aren't really fitting into the world of 20 years ago or 25 years ago. So I mean, we always take a hard look at what we're doing and trying to make sure that we are accessible.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this is really wonderful to hear. And I had mentioned this before, but prior to joining the Maryland Governor's Workforce Development Board, I spent 6 years at the National Governors Association, kind of traveling around the country, working with governors and other state leaders, looking kind of how these trends and some of these types of initiatives were playing out in different parts of the country. So I can't help but ask a question that kind of brings us out to that level for a minute. So Britton, knowing you also have some experience on the national level, I'll turn to you next. From your experience, interactions you've had across the United States, how are Prince George's County's economic and workforce characteristics, how's that comparing to other places you've been? And additionally, have you seen a partnership like this one that we're celebrating today?
Well, I've heard of these. I haven't been to one, right? So this is the first that I've been to, and I'm so excited and glad to be a part of it and glad that the painters have decided to partner with Employ Prince George's to make an impact here. When we all, or I know Maryland did, elected this new Democratic Congress, and the policies that came out of that, the opportunities that came out of that, the CHIPS Act, the Build Back Better plan, all of that have added to the amount of opportunity and the number of partnerships that we are able to see today. And I think that, it was mentioned that local hire was a tool to be used. It was mentioned that, Davis-Bacon, prevailing wages, we're trying to make these good jobs, but then also the apprenticeship utilization provisions that are attached to almost every single program that came out of that legislation is proven itself true today. I think that there is a lot of work to be done as far as employing the unemployed and finding those who want jobs. But the template is being proven here. I see, a little while ago, I tried to, and this is, I don't know if you know this, Walter, but I try to keep Brian informed on what's going on and how can I get him some more programs and dollars for this training facility. And sometimes we talk about things like second chance programs. And so we met with a few people and came to a couple of discussions, but it already turns out Walter was already doing it, right? And so that is just an example of the energy that people have here, and that I hope that is shared amongst at least our union in the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. It was also mentioned that this area, at least Boston Way, and this block that we're on, has a number of trades, right? Well, we're right up the street from the International Union of Everything in the building trades. And the partnerships that they need to make in order to be successful, in order to build this next generation of infrastructure is exampled here. And this is a great template for it. And, if they want to grow and if we want to impact and build this next thing, this is something that we just have to do. And Rachel, you're a part of the Governor's Workforce Development Board. How does this partnership align with the vision and the goals of your organization?
Are you asking the moderator a question? Putting me on the spot.
Walter told me to.
My goodness.
Walter.
Okay. Well, no, I'm glad you asked. We're talking about, these opportunities for youth, and it's something the Governor's Workforce Development Board is really invested in. I think everything we're talking about, I see pieces of it in so many of the conversations we're having with the board right now as we start to shape Maryland's strategy for the future. A few things I know we're going to be focused on are looking at which sectors are going to be the state's big bets, for our economic future, where we're going to prioritize resources. And I certainly think I see one represented here in this room at this event, and everything we're celebrating. We're also really going to focus on how are we engaging untapped potential? How are we reaching out and providing greater access through our local partners and local boards and many other partners across the state to people who have barriers in place that don't need to be there. We're really thinking about our future workforce, our young people. And you talked about, many of you actually spoke about a goal of ensuring, it's really about making sure young people can graduate and leave high school with a clear next step toward a good job on a structured career pathway, regardless of whether they're going to college when they leave high school, right? Creating more options for them. So it's something we're really committed to through our role in the blueprint. And we're also thinking about how we can foster more alignment and coordination and really be at the state level a platform for collaboration. And this, the partnerships that it takes to get to a day like today, it's a ton of work. And we want to help foster that at the state level so that we can see more things like this across the region. I talked about the blueprint, so I'll just spend a moment there. The blueprint's goal of, the 45% goal we spend a lot of time talking about, over the last couple of months, the CTE committee on the governor's board has really been taking a close look at that and thinking, well, what is that really about? And really recognizing that it's ultimately, that's a goal, that's an ambitious goal, that's something to strive toward, but it's really about what I just said, that structured next step, that next opportunity, and making sure there's a wider range of good opportunities for our young people. So on the board, we're doing that by trying to kind of create the frameworks and the structures at the state level that can help this happen at the local level, reimagining career and technical education, industry-recognized credentials, apprenticeships in high school. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention we do this with a lot of partners in education and in labor, including the Maryland Department of Labor and MATC. And we're also doing this in partnership with our local workforce development boards on a number of levels, including through deploying career coaches to make sure that students are actually getting exposure in school to what all these opportunities can be and what those can do for them. So all that is to say, I think at the state level, we're looking to foster more great opportunities for young people like the ones this center will provide. So I've been taking some notes on some of the things you guys have been talking about today. So thank you for that question. And Walter, we'll close with you. This is you're our host after all. And in the announcement, I just spoke about the blueprint, and I know your announcement kind of references the connection back to those goals, as you just did a moment ago. So I think it's fitting to close our conversation for this panel with kind of your thoughts on the connection here and how this center will really benefit the future generation of Prince George's County.
Well, I think we really, in our system, the reason why all of you all are here, we've been focused on who's our customer. The customer's the business, right? Who's our product. We're producing a product. That product's the job seeker, and we need manufacturers. Who's the manufacturer if you have a product? That's our community members. That's everybody in this room. The goal why we invited you all here today, our municipalities, our elected officials. I see Councilwoman Delegate who's joined us, right? We need everybody. Let's round of applause. Yeah, let's do it, right? We need everybody in this room. We need all 27 municipalities to help us. We need every mayor, every commissioner, every council member. We need every county council member, every elected official. We have to identify that. What's the story behind that? Is why we have to do it. It's the future. We need a future. We need our young people to be skilled and prepared. We're not going to live 150 years and be working. And if you did live 150 years, you don't want to work the whole time, right? We need our young people to take over for us. And the blueprint for Maryland, and as you listen to the data from Elizabeth, from Lightcast, the internationally recognized economic development organization, right? 1.9%, 1.6%. We don't have a ton of adults just waiting to go into these jobs. If these young people aren't ready, we're going to be in trouble. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to want your kids and your future generation to be healthy and prepared and fiscally able, or else we all going to be in the street. We're going to be a bunch of old people in the street, right? And it's cold outside, right? And I'm not trying to be in the cold, so we need it. So the blueprint for Maryland is funding. There's representatives from our school system. If you could put your hand up. I saw Olivia, Dr. Cadet, right? Amy Rock, thank you for being here today, right? All of our employed Prince George's staff, please put your hand up to help put this event on and do this work, right? We've been working for months to ensure that we can get into, I think we're going to be in 60-some middle and high schools, providing career coaching. We've created 6 in-demand industry clusters. If you go to pgcajc.com, we've already produced reports, career pathways, and competency maps for 2 of those clusters: construction, healthcare, IT, transportation logistics, professional services, and then hospitality and accommodation. Right now on our website, we have career pathways and competency maps for healthcare and retail and accommodation. We're going to produce 4 more. That's going to tell you what are the in-demand industries, what are the skills and competencies we need to be successful, what are the education credentials. And we are working on that through our business groups. You see the Construction Works program. We have employer-focused groups for each of those. Jessica Wilson's here today. She leads the committee. Troy Green is the chair of our Business Services Committee. We have a board members back there, right? So we're working with employers. We're working with Lightcast. We're working with Kale to check out, what do people need? We already figured that out. What then we have to do is everybody in this room has to come together We know what the employers need. We know what the jobs are. All of us have to come together in this room, electeds at every level, education, workforce, labor, and say, hey, how do we make sure that every student that graduates from Prince George's County Public Schools is on a career pathway? And there's multiple on-ramps. Some are going to go to undergrad, graduate degree, and become doctors. Some are going to get their high school diploma and go straight to work. Regardless of what happens or what route they take, we have to make sure they have the skills to be successful. We have to make sure that everyone, no matter where you live in this county, you have equitable access to a quality job. And we have to make sure they have the skills to be successful on that job. What's that going to lead to? That's going to lead to more people making more money, buying homes, having successful households, and our businesses are going to be more successful, so they're going to grow and need more employees. That's the future of why we're here today. That's why all of you are invited. We look forward to partnering with you. We look forward to working with you. We're not perfect. The system isn't built to where it needs to be. So we need everybody here to say, hey, what do we need to do to make it better? What is the next step? Because at the end of the day, if our future generation isn't ready, all of us gonna have cans in the street trying to figure out how we get together, right? So that's what it's about, is that future generation. And so I'm looking forward to working with everybody here. Thank you for being today to prepare Prince George's County for long-term success.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our panel, thank you. We can give them one more round of applause. And I'll turn things back to Walter to take us along in our program. Thank you again for having me. And on behalf of the Governor's Workforce Development Board, congratulations to all the partners involved in the Building Trade Center, and thanks for what you're doing here.
Thank you. So, we'll let you all. Remember, it's not on social media, it didn't happen. So let's give a round of applause to our moderator, Rachel, the executive director of our Governor's Workforce Board. All right, so what we're going to do now, we do have our special guest coming, the governor and our county executive. But before then, we want y'all to actually see what we're doing here. You're in a room right now. This used to be, this building before the Painters Union was a church. So you were sitting in a large fellowship hall. This bond bill and the investment from the Painters Union and the Workforce Board and Employee Prince George's, we've broken these rooms out. So you have a career center up front, and then really you're in a how many ever square foot, Brian, classroom, right? So I think, Brian, we're going to take people outside. We're going to have two sets of groups walking around so you can see this building here has everything you need, drywall, glass, everything. You are sitting in one huge classroom and career center that we've renovated to meet the needs. And again, like Brian said, this isn't just for the Painters Union. The Painters Union is going to work with their colleagues across the building trades and open it up so that if there's an apprenticeship class and they don't have time for a pre-apprenticeship class, 4700 Boston Way can be. If we need to work with our Hispanic community, our immigrant community, CTE graduates, summer youth employment. I saw Nina here earlier in Nakia. Like, this is going to be that resource. So we want you all to walk around, see what they're doing, see the renovation. We'll come back in here probably within the next 30 minutes and then hear words from our governor and our county executive. So if everybody wants to make their way out this door, you can start walking around and see the tour, and then we'll see you back in about 20 or 30 minutes and hear from our governor. Thank you. Take a quick second. If all of our elected officials stand, please. I do want to make sure we talked about you all earlier. Yes, let's give a round of applause. We have our municipal leaders here, our county council members, state delegates, and state senators. We were giving you all kudos earlier. This doesn't happen without the $250,000 bond bill approved by the Maryland General Assembly. It doesn't happen without the support from our county council. We have our new county council chair here, Chair Ivy, right? One of the things that, when I hear about other workforce boards and other entities, and they're like, oh, my council, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't have them problems. My council supports workforce development. Y'all got people that don't support people getting jobs? But having something here and partnering with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, our elected officials understand the value of organized labor, the painters union, the building trades, and quality jobs with benefits, Davis-Bacon wages. There's a recent announcement of a new building coming. We want to make sure that Prince George County residents are working on those projects and getting paid. So what I just really, again, if we can give another round of applause to our elected officials. But again, we are in, this Building Trades Career Center is a partnership with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. So I'd like to bring to the stage the General President of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, Jimmy Williams.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome to our home. And I really, really appreciate everybody that has been here today to see the hard work that we do in organized labor to really change people's lives. And today's announcement is just the first step in doing that. And to be embedded right here in the community in Prince George's County is kind of what the labor movement and the unionized construction industry is all about. And today's event is truly a model that can be used throughout the country on how you connect government officials, community leaders, workforce development, business owners, workers, and labor unions. And I really appreciate the work that Prince George's County has done to connect the labor movement and our unions to be a part of a solution that is a real problem in this country right now. While we may have low unemployment, we don't have great employment. And unionized construction jobs can be truly life-changing opportunities for people that need it the most. And right now, we have such a unique opportunity as a country because of the hard work of this current administration at passing transformational bills like the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. These are all job-creating construction bills that can put people that need real jobs to pull them out of poverty and into the middle class. And the unions of this country are here to accept new people. We are going to need thousands of workers to meet the demand in the next 10 years. And look, I'm the youngest general president of a construction union, and I'm a proud president of this union. And I am so proud to say that the people that are going to build this country into the future won't look like me. We have the ability within the construction industry to change people's lives that never before had opportunities in our industry. We are going to be a majority-minority union in 2 years, and I'm so proud of that. Because the workforce of tomorrow is a diverse workforce, and the construction trades are a great place for people to learn and earn and take care of their families with family-sustaining wages. We have more women joining our trades. We have more people of color joining our trades, and I am so proud of it. Thank you all for having us here today. Oh, I gotta stay on stage?
All right. So we're going to have our special guest speakers join us, and they're going to join Jimmy on stage. We do ask that when the speakers get done, everybody stay seated for security reasons. That's why I said it got a little heavy in here. We know so they should be joining us. This is that awkward moment where I'm like filling time in between, right? But I'll say this, right? While we're filling that time, right now, what do we have available? Our goal is last year we put 41 apprentices into employment. And 41 of those we had trained through 27 pre-apprenticeships. Through our budget for this fiscal year, our goal is 100. We're going to try to more than double those apprenticeships. So if you are one of our apprenticeship sponsors, please stand, or apprenticeship partners stand. Laura, Dawn, Prince George Community College, right? So the food earlier, Frank and May Kitchen, that was an apprenticeship. The food that people ate came from Prince George's County residents. They are apprentices through the National Restaurant Association. We have done healthcare apprenticeships, Troy Green with Luminous, right? We're doing healthcare apprenticeships, Capital Region Health. So we've done CNA pre-apprenticeships and patient care technician, cybersecurity, right? Construction trades. So our goal is if we can do 41 last year, we'll do 100 this year. But for employers, what's key? We actually have an employer incentive. For every new registered apprenticeships registered within the last 3 years, every employer that hires a new apprentice that's a Prince George's County resident, they can get up to $5,000, right? That's good, right? If the apprenticeship is let's say they're not new to this, they're true to apprenticeships, right? And they're longer than, they're not a new apprenticeship, we're not going to exclude them. Older apprenticeships, established apprenticeships, every apprentice hired through an established apprenticeship, that employer gets $2,500, right? So Prince George's County is going to meet that apprenticeship goal. We're going to lead it. Not only do we have facilities like this, we also have CEO House here working with our school system and partnering there through the blueprint, right? So we're going to prepare that talent, and we have funding to reward our employers for hiring these apprentices. So that's something to look forward to, right? We also have it talking about poverty. We talked about earlier is the way to prevent crime is economic opportunity, right? So we have Mike Williams here today, the director of our Returning Citizen Affairs Division. Through the county council, through our county council, they passed the Prince George's County Reentry Employment Incentive Fund, right? Where employers can get up to $5,000 for employing a returning citizen or someone else justice involved. So if a business can employ someone who is a returning citizen and in an apprenticeship, that gets up to $10,000, right? So that's what Prince George's County is doing. I filled the time enough, y'all, right? So we figured it out, right? Oh, false alarm. Nope, not a false alarm. It's coming, right? There you go. All right. There you go. We figured it out, right? Y'all can tell I'm not used to doing these things, right? So let's give a round of applause for our special guest. All right. So, as we talk about the importance, Jimmy, the president, general president of International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, in his remarks, he said that you can't have successful workforce development programs without partnerships with elected officials. We acknowledged our county council members, our state senators, our state delegates. We also acknowledge our school board. We also acknowledge our school board members. But you can't say that Prince George's County in the state of Maryland doesn't have support from their elected officials. Look at everybody in this room that is here to support putting people to work, right? So we're going to have special guests provide these remarks. So the first person I want to call to the stage is one of my favorite people. They are my favorite people, but she and I have been working together from when she was the state's attorney through Back on Track. And really working for a long time to put people to work. So please welcome the Honorable Angela D. Alsobrooks, County Executive of Prince George's County.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. What an exciting day in Prince George's County. And when I'm in the room with this guy, it's always something exciting happening. You all often hear me talk about a super bad woman. Well, I want you to know, there are several super bad men in the room, but I want to first say, Walter Simmons, you are a super bad man. He has just done incredible work in Prince George's County, never, ever failing, and yet today is yet another example of that. How honored are we also to have our governor in the house, Governor Wes Moore. I want to thank you so much. I welcomed him back to his second home. He agreed, he accepted that. And so we thank you, and we're always so glad to have you here. Also, Jimmy Williams of the Union of Painters and Allied Trades, thank you so much for your leadership. We want to thank you all for having us today. Roxana Mejia, my great friend I know is here. I want to thank her so much for her leadership as well. We have Congressman Ivey, who you're going to hear from in just a moment, who's doing a yeoman's job in representing us, and want to thank him. I know there are, and I would be in trouble if I started to name them all, because I have really incredible colleagues here in Prince George's. All of my colleagues in elective service who are here today, can you stand, please, and be recognized? And some who are not elected, I see our school's CEO, and so I want to thank all of them also. And it is an honor today to be here as we open the brand new construction trades program here in Prince George's County. Today we are opening the very first American Job Center within a building trades union in the entire United States. That is something to be proud of. I'm honored also to be here again with so many officials throughout government and outside of government who are committed to building a pipeline of high-wage union jobs here in Maryland and across the nation. You know, a job is a lifeline. We rely on good-paying jobs to care for our families and to create the type of life we each want to live. It's how we pay our bills, how we invest in the things that matter to us, and how we take our kids on vacations and experiences of a lifetime. That's why job growth and workforce development is a priority for my administration. And since 2019, you should know that combined with so many talented people in this room, we have created more than 12,000 new jobs in Prince George's County. That's worthy of. Investments in resources like this American Job Center is an example of our progress and our success. We're here to develop a pipeline of students, young adults, and adults for good careers with union employers in building trades and construction. Maryland is growing, and there are not enough skilled tradesmen and women to complete all the important projects going on across our state. But today, that begins to change for the better. This project represents so much for our community, and it wouldn't be possible without the partnership of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades District Council 51 and the hardworking people at Employ Prince George's. I'd like to also thank Delegate Jazz Lewis, who helped us secure funding for this project during the legislative session, as well as all of our other colleagues in our legislature. I'd like to also again thank our entire federal delegation, including Representative Ivey, Senator Van Hollen, and others for their hard work to make this project possible. And again, I'd like to thank Governor Moore, who's a wonderful partner for us, and thank him for his work, his outstanding leadership that just produces day in and day out. In Prince George's County, we recognize the benefit of unions. These jobs often come with greater security, benefits, and wages, and help our residents have outstanding careers. It's also clear that the construction industry is filled with growing opportunities to build our community. Today, we're bridging the gap between union labor and demand for skilled workers in construction. The Building Trades Center will be here to help every step of the way. Not every resident has the skills and qualifications to gain employment in a union through an apprenticeship. That's why the Building Trades Career Center will offer free apprenticeship training that will help Prince George's County residents gain the skills and qualifications needed to secure livable wage employment with benefits with union employers in the construction industry. This center will help us achieve important employment and apprenticeship goals set by the state of Maryland in the blueprint for Maryland's future. The Building Trades Career Center will be a tool to assist Prince George's County Public Schools and Employ Prince George's to create a pipeline of residents to launch a career in the construction industry via apprenticeships with the county's building trades. Over the coming years, our county will continue to grow at a rapid pace, and we're committed to making this growth work for everyone. That includes multiple construction projects in the pipeline in the coming years, including our signature Blue Line Corridor project, another 8 new schools, and even more affordable and workforce housing. If we work to meet the needs of residents, our growth will not be limited to charts and graphs. Instead, prosperity will be apparent in every corner of our county. Today, we help our residents find high-wage careers, learn new skills, and provide for their families. Time will show that this historic job center is another step forward for our community, ensuring a prosperous Prince George's County for decades to come. I know that this building trade center will serve as a positive example for other communities in decades to come as well. So thank you everyone so much for being here today. Thank you to all the partners who made this possible, and I'm going to turn this back over to one super bad man, Walter Simmons.
So earlier you heard from the United States Department of Transportation, the United States Department of Energy, and the United States Department of Labor on the billions of dollars that were passed to support the infrastructure, along with hearing from our county executive's office and WSSC about what those projects look like. That doesn't happen without, they mentioned the Congress that passed those bills to allocate that funding that led to where we are today. So I'd like to bring to the stage the Honorable Glenn Ivey, Representative 4th District of the United States House of Representatives.
Thank you so much. Whoa. How y'all doing? You feel all right? Yeah, you ought to. This is a fantastic day. It doesn't get a whole lot better than this. I do want to take a moment, thank our county executive for doing such an outstanding job. Hasn't she been great? I'll introduce the governor in a minute. I got to pause, though, and I know they said I had all the elected officials stand up and all that, but I got to give a special shout out to my baby over there, Jolene Ivey, new county council chair. Yeah, that's how I got to year 35, you know? Yeah, I ain't gonna be on the couch. You know, this is a neat day for me. In our house, we have one of the few photos I have that's multi-generational. It's a picture of my grandfather. He's probably around 14 years old, and he's there with his father, his mother, and a couple of the other kids. And his father came out of slavery in North Carolina. And my grandfather became a brick mason. And as a brick mason, he used those skills to launch the Ivey family onto the track that we've arrived at today. And, you know, the next step after my grandfather did that, this is in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. North Carolina in the house? Yeah, okay. Dad did the same thing, too. He went to Booker T. Washington High School. And at Booker T. Washington, which is across the street from where we live right across the street from the gym, they actually had the training programs in the high school where he learned how to be a brick mason as well. And what they would do is they'd build a house every year, and they'd be around nearby. But they came out with skills that they'd gotten in high school. And, you know, that was the way it worked back in those days. We got away from that as a country for a few years there. Everything had to be computers, and everybody had to be Bill Gates Jr. and everything. But the reality is that, especially here in Prince George's County, the industry is building. We build houses. We're about to build some FBI headquarters. We build commercial developments. We do all of that, but we've been short. We haven't been generating the type of people coming out who can do these jobs here locally. And we're about to change that today. With a facility like this, we're going to change it and move it back in the right direction, right? Are you ready? All right. So I wanted to really congratulate you all for opening this facility up. Angela, thank you for your role. I've got colleagues in the House and in the Senate, Chris, Ben, Steny, who've been doing outstanding work, really bringing home the bacon. I haven't even been there a year yet, but I get to pitch in and help out with that team. It's doing outstanding work. But I really want to thank all of you all in the room, because the transition we're making to make sure we've got young people who can come out and they're ready to go into the job world. We had the Secretary of Education here a few months ago, and one of the things he talked about was how important these programs are and the things that we needed to do to get back to them to help kids get to where they were. But the most important part of that program was that there were actually high school kids who were there who were telling us, how it had transformed their lives. A lot of them had no idea that the types of things that they were doing and they'd moved into, they hadn't thought about doing. But some of them helped them get out of trouble, some of them helped keep them on the right track. For all of them, it's helped them build a future that's bright and strong and moving them in the right direction. So I definitely want to thank all of you all for what you're doing. But I really, really, really want to thank our governor. Governor Wes Moore, isn't he doing a great job? Man, you want to talk about hit the ground running. He's been off to a fantastic start, doing a lot of great work in Annapolis. I hear about him. I work down on Capitol Hill, as you know. I hear about him all the time. People from all over the country are talking about, man, this governor you got, he's fantastic. I said, you don't know the half of it yet, but we really do in Maryland, and we appreciate the work that he's doing. So, Governor, come on up. Thank you for the great work you're doing. And thank you so much. Welcome to our governor, Wes Moore.
Thanks so much. Good afternoon. What's going on, Prince George's? How y'all doing? It is good to be back. It is good to be here. And Congressman Ivey, first let me just say, not just thank you, but bless you. Because the work that you do to make sure that Prince George's is not just seen and supported, but invested in, it matters. And having a champion like you to make sure that from every single place and space that Prince George is taken care of, and the district taken care of, and the state is taken care of, I can tell you right now, your impact has been meaningful. You talk about hit the ground running. You have hit the ground running, my friend. So God bless you, and thank you, and congratulations on this. And I tell you, county exec, showing us what right looks like every single day. There is nobody who fights for her community or her constituents the way that you do. So every time, I feel like every time I see the county executive, it's a celebration because there's something else new happening. More new jobs being created, more new opportunities being built. And why that matters is, you talk about the amount of jobs that have been created. Every single one of those jobs is a story. Every single one of those jobs is an opportunity. It's a chance for people to lift themselves up and to bring up an entire family and community with them. And you have been the engine to help drive it. So bless you. Congratulations to you too. Thank you. And President Simmons, where do you go? There you go, right there. Man, this is beautiful. And I always say things don't happen by accident. Things happen because of intentionality. And your intentionality and the leadership of you and all the other leaders here, this matters. And it matters heavily. And I can tell you right now, so, we always say in the Moore-Miller administration, we like to roll deep. And I'm thankful for the fact that I'm looking around and we basically have like the entire state government that's just standing here today. In fact, can we ask all of our cabinet secretaries and agency heads to please stand up so we can acknowledge you and say thank you. Thank you. DGS, state, labor, commerce. Because the way when we understand the work and the way that the work is done, it takes everybody. It takes every single facet of government. It takes our local elected officials, and it's an honor to be here. And by the way, sir, it's wonderful to see you. You're much better half. Congratulations, and it's wonderful to see you as well. Council Chair. But it takes everybody being involved and engaged. Our labor leaders, our community groups, the private sector, that everybody's going to make sure that progress actually happens. And so this is a celebration. It's a celebration of not just this space, but it's a celebration about the direction that has been chartered here in partnership with our unions and in partnership with our building trades. It's a direction that's going to focus on making sure that we can create opportunity for everybody and not just some people. It's a direction that continues to forge the fact that we cannot have a thriving society if we are asking far too many of us to simply tread water while we are allowing other people to just swim ahead. It's making sure, and we are going to be very, very clear in our state. And I believe in the fact, and I love the fact that we have some of the best four-year institutions in the world here in the state of Maryland, and they are wonderful. But I'm going to be very clear. We are going to end this lie that every single one of our young people and every single one of our workers must attend one of them in order to be economically successful. And I can tell you right now, I mean, for me, this is personal. I didn't have a traditional path, right? I joined the Army when I was 17 years old. I come from a union family. Where I think about the legacy of my family, I said we come from a long line of preachers and teachers. We come from a long line of postal workers. We come from a long line of engineers and people who built this country with their hands. And I joined the Army when I was 17 years old. I wasn't even old enough to sign the paperwork when I first joined the Army. My mother had to sign the paperwork for me. But kind of exact, after my teenage years, she would sign whatever paperwork they put in front of her. She's like, this all you need? But what I essentially found was I found a society that would allow me to create my own path. I found a society that would allow me to chart my own destiny. And that's exactly what the power of this new career center gives. An opportunity for everybody to be able to chart their path. To find that thing that makes their heart beat a little bit faster, and to find that thing that allows them an opportunity to build the type of foundation that their family needs and their family deserves. I believe deeply in this work. And we are going to invest deeply in this work. And that's why we've seen, just in our first months, while we are proud to have secured over $4 million for the Maryland Apprentice Training Program in our first year, the fact that we've leveraged the state's EARN program, which has delivered over $300,000 in public investment. The fact that just last month, I signed an executive order authorizing the use of project labor agreements and community benefit agreements on large-scale public works projects. Because when we say leave no one behind, we mean that. And when we say that this is going to be a time that we are going to create pathways for work, wages, and wealth for all Marylanders, we mean that. An opportunity to find a good, fulfilling job that pays you a fair wage and that makes sure that you have the opportunity to build wealth so you have something to pass off to your children besides debt. To make sure you have the opportunity to simply own more than you owe. And I can tell you right now that working in partnership, it's working. Because the state is moving. Where just in these past 11 months, we have announced over 31,000 new jobs in the state of Maryland. That right now, Maryland has the lowest unemployment rate in the entire country. That when we were first sworn in, Maryland was ranked 47th in economic momentum. And in just 11 months, we have jumped 20 slots. We have put the entire country on notice. This is Maryland's time. We're not slowing down. We are unapologetic. We've let these other states know we think you all are wonderful. And maybe Marylanders will visit y'all every once in a while to go on vacation or something. But this is our time. And the reason it is Maryland's time is because that we are going to make sure that everybody is seen and not just some. The reason we are going to win is because everybody's going to play a role in the winning. And everybody will have a chance to know that they and their families and their legacy will play a core part of it. So this is a well-deserved win, y'all. This is a celebration. This is a celebration of not just the now, but a celebration of the type of opportunity that today is going to unearth. This is the epitome of what it means to leave no one behind. And we're grateful for it, and we're just getting started. So God bless y'all, and thank you so much.
So we're going to ask that everybody stay seated while we get ready for the ribbon cutting. But I do want to say, it seems like everybody from North Carolina got out, as I'm a product of my grandfather and my great uncle left the tobacco fields of North Carolina to go into the unions and as a cement mason and a carpenter, right? So our family has seen that product as well. And that's why, we wouldn't be here without our family might still be on those fields if it wasn't for labor union. So I'm a product of that as well. But I want to say on behalf of Employ Prince George's, the Prince George's County Workforce Board, thank you to everybody. Thanks to our leaders. But I know people say I'm a super bad man, but it's not me. So can everybody, all of Employ Prince George's staff, please stand? I know I get a lot of the picture, but these people in the room do the work that allows me to be on this stage. And believe me, they're working hard. They're working hard. And then lastly, can our Employ Prince George's Board of Directors and the Prince George's County Workforce Board stand, please? Right? Those are my bosses, so let's clap for them, right? Deanna, please stand too. You on the board too, so there you go, right? Right, so we don't do this work without the Workforce Board, Employ Prince George's Board of Directors and that staff. So I just want to say thank you. Again, if everybody can please stay seated. We're going to get ready for the ribbon cut, and then we'll ask everybody to come out and we'll get all the pictures, because if it's not on social media, it didn't happen. All right, thank you.
You have to remember that this is going to be a time that we are going to invest. It's going to be a time that we're going to be bold, and it's going to be a time that we're going to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. The most important thing is that we're making the right decision for our taxpayers. And when I say that we have to make sure that we're making long-term, smart, strategic investments in our future, and we are going to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, I mean both of those things. And I mean we're also not going to choose. So this is going to be a time of discipline, a time of choices, but a time where Maryland is going to move fast and Maryland is going to be bold, but we're always going to be good, proper stewards of our taxpayer dollars.
I'd like to just add, and part of why today is so significant is what we understand, not just in terms of the strain that we're going to see on the state budget, but of course all of the locals are having its own strain, but creating opportunities. We have a very forward-looking sort of vision about how we create jobs, how we create opportunities, growing the commercial tax base, and making sure that we create a workforce that will be able to take advantage of all of the opportunities that we're seeing. So we are partnering with the state government. You'll see the investments at the New Carrollton Metro and along the Blue Line Corridor. So as we are experiencing some of the revenue shortfalls that we're seeing, we're also creating.
The reason that we are going to continue focusing on and investing in transit-oriented development is because that is a way of getting people from where they live to where opportunities lie. Part of the reason that we have to ensure that we are continuing to fix things like roads and bridges and making smart strategic investments in our projects is because if people do not have access to where the opportunities are, they will not be able to gain the proper economic platforms that they need for long-term growth and success. So we have to be able to invest. That becomes a vehicle and a pathway for people to be able to go from where they live to where they work, from where they live to where opportunity lies. And it's something that we have known for a long time.
And we are all really committed to continuing to move forward to plan for the FBI headquarters, and that's part of what that discussion was the ways that we'll continue to work collaboratively, both with the state level. We want to also thank Congressman Ivey. We've been collaborating about just how we're going to continue. We're ready, we're moving forward, and we're just looking forward to seeing it again.